If you like the sweet science, get ready to talk boxing on the Gloved Fist podcast with top boxing writers Frank Lotierzo and Jack Hirsch. Frank, a former amateur boxer out of Philadelphia, writes for NY Fights and can be seen on the Boxing Channel. Jack, an amateur boxer who competed in the New York Golden Gloves, was a 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association. And now, here's Frank Lotierzo and Jack Hirsch.
And we're back. Welcome to Glove Fist. My name is Frank Lotierzo, former writer, full-time, mostly observer, joined by former 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association of America, Jack Hirsch. Jack, I don't know where we're going tonight, but as usual, you get me fired up before the show. Then you're going to tell me what I want to bring up, what I want to talk about. We can't talk about it, okay? We're going to get to what you said.
In your own words, you always say, we're back. You're back. I never went away, Frank. You're like a fighter. You're like the
Where were you for the last 7 days?
If all the boxing analysts, if I had to compare you to a fight, I'd compare you to Keith Thurman. You've got all this great talent. No, you're world champion ability.
Did you hear that, Brian? That passive aggressive insult.
Like
Keith Thurman, a guy that never fights.
But Keith Thurman's a winner, though. So I'm complimenting you in this.
I guess if you pick your fights once a year, I could find one to win.
Once a year,
all right. Anyhow, Jack, we have a
last 6 years, but besides.
Right, that's what I meant to say. Actually, we have a big fight coming up. We have Dana White making noise. We got the anniversaries up a couple fights, but let's just get this off our chest. I did a post, or somebody asked me my opinion on Facebook about a Prime Holmes Frazier fight, and you said most of the people disagree with me. That's not what I read. And Jack, if most of the people disagree with me, you know what? That convinces me my opinion, and I'm more right than I ever was, that Joe Frazier, the best Joe Frazier that ever lived, would stop the best Larry Holmes that ever lived. If they disagree with me, Jack, you know what? The lion does not care what the church mouse thinks.
No, I actually agree with you. But
now I have to rethink my position.
People are entitled to their opinion, but sometimes it's a little frustrating the way they're like dismissive of things. I mean, they're building blocks I think I disliked. If they feel Holmes at his best would have beaten Frazier at his best, they're entitled to their opinion, absolutely. And who knows for sure. But the thing is, they use certain building blocks, as I said, and they'll use a lame argument, well, Frazier met Ali when Ali wasn't at his best. Ali was this, Ali was off. You know, I don't like the building blocks that they're using.
Jack, Ali, for the first 5 rounds of the first fight with Frazier, was never better as far as faster, quicker, and more powerful, okay? And the thing that cracks me up is these guys love Ali, okay? They love Ali, but do they realize when they say Holmes beats Frazier easy, or that he handles him, how much they're disparaging Ali for the fact that he couldn't do it? And what does Holmes do better than Ali? He doesn't take a punch better. He's not stronger. He's not faster. He's not as strong physically. He may have his jab's a little bit heavier, not as fast. It doesn't have the variant. And guess what, Jack? Everybody that fought Larry Holmes, that put pressure on him, gave him all kind of trouble, okay? I mean, everybody that was elite, Norton, Witherspoon, Weaver, they all gave him trouble, even Cooney, okay? So I don't want to hear it. It's like, it's a bad, if you understand styles in boxing, Joe Frazier probably matches up better with Larry Holmes than 95% of the other greats, all based on style, because everything Frazier does great nullifies what Holmes did. And in closing, think about this, Jack. What's Holmes' best punch? His left jab. What punch was Ali's best punch? His left jab. What punch did Frazier nullify? If you go back and look at the film, Ali had to throw 4 jabs to land 1 cleanly. Okay?
Yeah.
Frazier wins.
Well, what Larry Holmes, if you're going to tell me he's one of the 5 greatest heavyweights of all time,
I think he is.
I agree or disagree, but I'm not going to argue. I don't have a list. but off the top of my head, it would be Ali 1, Lewis 2. And then we can start placing, the names. Career-wise, I give it all up for Larry Holmes. He had a great, great career. But with that said, he was on the brink of defeat or was given extraordinary difficulty in a good number of his fights. Ronaldo Snipes knocked him down and hurt him very badly. Ernie Shavers knocked him down, hurt him very badly. Mike Weaver had Holmes, you could argue, on the, I don't want to say the
brink.
On the brink of defeat, but Holmes, like a great champion, pulled it out with an uppercut. Jerry Cooney gave Holmes all he could handle. And I'm going to tell you something. The best version of Ali would have slapped Cooney all over the ring. It would have been embarrassing to a large extent. Cooney never would have touched him. He would have looked as slow as molasses compared to Ali. He wouldn't have been nearly as competitive. Tim Witherspoon and Carl Williams.
Williams boxed him from range, Jack. Witherspoon pressed him. Williams boxed him and fought mainly with a left jab, which bothered Holmes.
But Larry, when you look at how well he fought it into an advanced stage and losses to Holyfield and Oliver McCall, and he beat Ray Mercer at an old age, Larry was a great, great fighter. Certain guys don't match up to others. I mean, you disagree with me. I think the nightmare matchup, the ultimate nightmare matchup for Holmes would have been against Tyson. The best version of Holmes, I'd give him virtually no chance against the best version of Tyson. Tyson would have obliterated him, I think, every time out. It's just a style thing. But listen to this. I think the best version of Holmes is in with a legitimate chance to upset the best version of Ali.
I agree with that. Jack, I totally agree with that because think about if Ali and Holmes fought, okay? We know it's not going to be a stoppage. They both have a really good chin and they're not big punchers. To me, the deciding factor of that fight is who was the aggressor? Because if Holmes fights as the puncher, I think that favors Ali. If Ali fights as the puncher, which I don't think he would have tried to do, I think it favors Holmes. But let me get back to Frazier. Jack, what Frazier did, and this is what people can't grasp. He put pressure in and on. He applied pressure fast. He was a moving target. He made you punch down. Fighters hate to punch down, and he made you rush everything you did. Well, that is the foil, the medicine to defeat Larry Holmes, because like Ali, he wants space, range, distance, and he wants to pick when to engage. With Joe Frazier, Jack, you can't do that. You're always addressing what he did, and I just don't think he could hold Holmes off.
Let me throw this one at you, Frank. You're thinking of 15 rounds. That was the championship distance when both Frazier and Holmes fought. What if I tell you they're at their peaks, but I'm making it a 10-rounder? Now that increases Holmes' chances maybe substantially.
It's 15 minutes less. He has to survive. You're right. But but when we speak of guys like that, Jack, we're thinking about a title fight where they're at the top of their game.
Okay.
All I'm saying is this. Pressure, and you think Tyson, who puts pressure on him, you think he beats Holmes. I think Holmes matches up there with Tyson because I think he could get inside of Tyson's head if Tyson doesn't get him early, and I'm not sold that he does, where he could never get in Frazier's head. But Frazier makes you rush. Look what he did with Ali. He made three things. He made Ali do one of three things. Fight, which is what Frazier wanted. He wanted to mix up. Move, which took Ali's stamina, or hold and take a body beating, okay? So it's like the pressure and the constant body punching. I just don't think Holmes could hold him off. I know it's easy to say, well, he's a great boxer, he has a great jab, but I think Holmes, his left jab would have been easier for Frazier to get under because it's more straight and direct, where Ali could actually change his jab even after he released it. So I think Ali's jab matches up better. But look, it's never going to happen. We both know they were great friends. They speak highly of each other. But I can tell you this. The night after Holmes and Shavers fought the second time, the Pope was in Philadelphia. and Joe Frazier had a car that was getting worked on, and the mechanic place was the garage was in City Line Avenue, and someone asked me if I could give him a ride. Okay, now think about this: Frazier, Holmes and Shavers fight Friday night. Monday night, Joe Frazier are in my car. We're driving to the garage to pick up his car, and Jack, the city is mobbed because the Pope is in town. Okay, so Joe and I were in the car for a good hour, and he said, "Did you see that fight Friday night between Holmes and Shavers?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "What'd you think?" I said, Shavers can hit hard. Holmes a better fighter. He goes, "They didn't show me anything. I think Marvis could take both of them." Now, look, we know how Joe talks, but I just got the impression he was not impressed by either guy. And guys, we're going to talk about Frazier a little later because this is the anniversary of one of his big fights during his prime. Go ahead, Jack.
From great fighters, we're taking some step down, talking about this weekend's marquee match, I guess, Ryan Garcia and Mario Barrios. To me, I don't care what title they throw in front of it. It's not a world championship fight. It's for a belt, whatever, what the WBC, whatever belt, who cares?
WBC welterweight, right.
Yeah, I know welterweight, whatever. Who gives a darn? I mean, but Ryan Garcia's in the news. He is a name. Okay.
He's a personality, Jack. Yes, he draws attention to himself.
He's a personality. Jake Paul, even though he gets knocked out by Anthony Joshua, he's a personality. So for, he's in the news, and it's a good matchup, by the way, because we don't know what version of Ryan Garcia we're going to get. He was dreadful against Raul Romero in his last fight because he wasn't on anything, probably. That probably contributed to it. In the fight before against Devin Haney, he obviously got suspended for substance abuse. So we don't know what version we see of Ryan Garcia. But the Ryan Garcia, let's not forget, pretty talented. The one who knocked out Luke Campbell, and had some other wins. He is talented. He can punch hard. Mario Barrios is very ordinary. We hear how good Manny Pacquiao looked at age 46 fighting a draw with Barrios. That doesn't reflect well on Barrios.
Jack, think about this. That fight, actually, that should have been Barrios' fight, but I thought Pacquiao earned a draw in the last 2 rounds because he sucked it up, and I had him winning the last 2 rounds, which made it a draw on my card. But it's like Pacquiao's how old? 44? 45?
Who are we talking? Manny? 46.
Pacquiao.
46.
46, and Barrios is 30, okay? So both of these guys are coming in kind of on a downward spiral. One drew, one lost, but I think in this situation, Jack, I think that Garcia is filling out, and I just think that this is going to be his fight where, like, not to the degree where I thought that Shakur would bring his A game, but this is a name fight, and Garcia, Jack, to keep the con going that he's a big star and he's a really good fighter, he has to win this fight, and he has to look impressive. And I think Barrios is the right guy who does nothing great. He's pretty good at everything, but he's not much of a puncher. I think this is a fight for Garcia to shine.
Frank, I'm getting used to the sport changing, and I'm kind of changing with it, even though I don't approve of the things. Ryan Garcia can lose this fight, and he's still going to be marketable because it's about entertainment now. That's what
I don't know if he can lose this one, Jack.
You're thinking of the right way. It's based on merit. Garcia could come back. They could give him a couple of very easy fights if he loses, and he'll be back in the picture.
Jack, I think he has to put up or shut up this time. The win over Haney was controversial. The only other fight he's really known for is Tank kicking his butt. This fight, he has
competitive with Tank. No, he was competitive.
But he lost pretty conclusively at the end, Jack.
At the end. If Barrios wins, he'll have no shortage of big name opponents because he's he's an easy win for them, really.
He'll be
in
perceived
reality.
as beatable. Right.
Right. So he'll be in demand. They'll all want to fight Mario Barrios. You know, the Devin Haney's will want to fight Mario Barrios. Maybe Shakur Stevenson's going to want to fight Mario Barrios. Barrios is in demand because he is extremely beatable. Garcia wins, and he wins in style. I mean, do they match him with Devin Haney? Would the money be so great? Would Turkey, His Excellency, pay big money for that fight? He very well
Jack,
might.
I agree with Joe. I think it's a career-defining fight. I think he has to put on a good show. I think he's good enough to get over on Barrios. I think he has enough power. I think he's going to be comfortable with the weight. And again, I don't think he's going to be in with a guy who's a threat to knock him out. And as far as what happens after this, here's the problem. If Garcia wins and he looks good, he's going to think he has the cachet that Crawford had after beating Canelo, and he'll probably be impossible to deal with. But there will be a plethora of fights for him out there as well.
I mean, you just have to look at recent examples. Tim Tszyu loses 3 fights, and he really looked dreadful in the third of those losses to another Australian fighter. And now, they're talking about a fight with him and Errol Spence, a big fight in Australia. And if he wins that, and who knows whether Spence has anything
But Jack,
left.
think about that. It's the same for Spence too, though. Both guys are in the same position.
No. There's a big difference involved. I'll tell you why. Tim Tszyu's career was based on potential that he never came close to fulfilling.
Okay, that's a fair point.
Errol Spence forged arguably a Hall of Fame career going into the Crawford fight.
But Jack, it'll be 3 years when they get in the ring. It'll be 3 years since he fought, and we saw the beating that he took. We don't know what he has left mentally or physically.
Yeah, agreed.
But if I'm Tszyu, it's the perfect fight. If you're Tim Tszyu, this is the only fight they could give Tim Tszyu that they could sell the public on, because of Spence being perceived as damaged goods. Tszyu isn't probably as much of an underdog in your mind's eye as much.
No. It's a fight that either guy could win, because we don't know what Spence has left. Maybe Tszyu knocks him out in a few rounds, and maybe Spence controls the fight. But
the problem is, Jack, whoever wins, they're not going to get credit.
They will get credit in the sense there'll be big fights available for them.
Well, they're back in the mix, but nobody will really respect it.
Spence wins and Keith Thurman defeats Fondora,
which I hope does not happen.
Which is a possibility. You can make a Spence Thurman fight. They talked about it in the past. I mean, Spence could fight Fondora himself. I mean, there's always fights out there, and the fighters who really earned an opportunity, they sometimes don't get it. Raleigh Romero decisively beat Ryan Garcia. How come he can't get a fight and Garcia's the one getting rewarded? I'll tell you, the one thing I like about Dana White, and I don't like Dana White, but recently he came up with his plan to change boxing. He's getting rid of all these divisions. It's going back to the way it used to be, the traditional weight.
The original 8.
And he's just going to add in cruiserweight in there, smartly, up to 200 pounds, because things have changed. Fighters are bigger today. But in the super boxing, I mean, he's starting off slowly, but at least the championships are going to have merit. I'm sick of these guys calling themselves 5-time champions. They're getting these junior titles. It's not real world title bouts. I mean, the fighters themselves, they're in la-la land.
But Jack, that's been going on since the 80s, really. That's when the titles became split. I mean, that we've had at least 2 world champions every division since the 80s, except, barring a few guys that unified. But it's been that way. It's so bad now, because I forget the math, but there could be 160 world champions, I think, if you count all the weight classes and all the belts and fringe belts.
Listen, I would do away with even divisions like super middleweight. I don't want to hear fighting at super middleweight to cop out. If you can't make 160, you fight at 175. Fighters, their weight isn't so delicate that they can't fight at 175. The fighters who fight at super middleweight have to make weight. They'll make weight more comfortable at 175, and they'll hardly be at a physical disadvantage.
See, I think they should actually, I don't have a problem with that, but I think another alternative could be is make middleweight a little bit bigger and just get rid of super middleweight. Make it 164, 165, like it is in the amateurs.
Yeah, I would have an open mind to that. But you don't want the heavyweights to be at a tremendous disadvantage. But I like the 200-pound cutoff, because if a fighter can't make 200 pounds, chances are he could fight very comfortably at 215, 220, and that would be fine in a lot of cases.
It just really makes it hard for history, though, because if you think about it, the history that we grow up on for most of our lives, and so I'll say maybe the mid 90s, early 2000s, I mean, heavyweights, good heavyweights were in that range of 205, 210, 220. And now that's not the case so much. But that's what I like about Usyk, the fact that he's 225 and he's fighting guys that are 250 and 260, and he's beating them. Why? Because he can fight and because he can box. And I've said all along, if you can fight, you can beat 225, and that's plenty big enough to beat a guy 270. And we've seen him do it.
Yeah, it depends who, but Tyson Fury, he's fighting, how do you say his name, Kayabo? Yeah.
You're so much better at it than I am, Jack.
Yeah, in his next fight. And Tyson Fury's a personality, but that's what it seems the sport is. They keep throwing these guys at us who they're good fighters, but they're actors. Like Tyson Fury, he puts on a show.
His act is so thin and so tired. His sell-by date is gone. The guy's been washed up since the third Wilder fight, and he picked a guy who is big, slow, and can't punch. Now, if I had to go to a factory and say I need Tyson Fury to get a win, what's going to be in the chemistry? I want a guy that's big, who's a big target, who can't move so we can find him, and who can't punch so he can't hurt him. This is the perfect fight for Tyson Fury to get a W and to get some and start selling wolf tickets again, because he'll probably look decent in it. Decent.
Yeah,
against the limited opponent.
Against Anthony Joshua. Joshua's past his peak, Fury's past his peak. It's a major fight in the UK. Certain of these fights should have taken place years and years ago. Like Fury Joshua, there were certain openings for it to take place. And
yeah, 6 years ago it would have been huge.
Right. And now the two of them are fighting, I'm not saying they're still not good to an extent. You're making it out like Fury has nothing left. I disagree. I think Fury is a solid fighter. He's still a good fighter, but no more than a maybe pretty good fighter. He used to be a great fighter at his best. He had all these skills.
Jack, it's not that I'm making him out to be his nothing. I just think he's at the point now that he could lose to anyone decent on a given night, which was not the case years back. But he's older now. He has abused his body, and it's just gone. It's just gone. He would have no chance to beat Usyk. We saw that. He had 2 shots. He couldn't do it. I would not pick him to beat Atama. I would not pick him to beat Cabell. Who else is out there? I'm not even sure. I would pick Wardley to beat him, too. So there's 4 guys right off the top of the head.
I don't know. How good is Wardley? We don't really know. He stopped Joseph Park at the end of their fight. He beat a quality guy in Joseph.
Is Wardley better than Ngannou, Jack?
Better than who?
Ngannou.
Oh, Ngannou, I mean, it didn't. You can't rate Ngannou. He said,
okay, but he went 10 rounds with Fury and was with 1 point of beating him.
Yeah, when you think of Fury, he nearly gets beat by Ngannou. And that's the ultimate disgrace, the ultimate humiliation. But think of his other fights where he came close to defeat. He fights Otto Wallen. He got cut bad. They could have stopped that fight. And Wallen was very competitive, and he was punching Fury all over the ring in the last round. If you anyone who
I
doesn't
remember.
believe me, just go back to the tape.
I
Against
remember watching the
Wilder,
fight down the
he
shore.
came very close to getting knocked out in the first fight, as close as could be, and he was hurt and dropped in the third fight a couple of times.
So, Jack, when's the last time
And
Fury looked good?
Cunningham knocked him flat on his back.
When's the last time Fury looked good?
Actually, you can make a case. He looked really good in the early rounds of the first Usyk fight. He was punching to the body. He was in a rhythm. It looked like it was going to be his night early on. It did after a few rounds. And then it started
So
to
for 4 or
turn
5 rounds,
suddenly.
he can still go.
Oh, right. And for those few rounds, it didn't look like there was any way Usyk could come back because Fury was in
Okay.
a rhythm.
Okay, so he
was
looked.
just sending him around. Yeah,
I
to the
agree with you,
body.
Jack. He looked, and he was going to the body. He looked good for the first 4 or 5 rounds. I'll give him that. So, okay. Are we going to say the Dylan White fight was a big fight?
No, Dylan White had nothing left.
Okay, so now we have to go back to the second 2 Wilder fights. So, really, the last time he looked really good
Against
for a
Eric
complete
Chisora,
fight
maybe.
was the second Wilder fight. That's
Yeah,
even
he
though
looked
he
good in
won
that.
the third Wilder fight in a nice fashion, he took a hellacious beating and it did not look good. He just outlasted Wilder because he was bigger, he had
Bigger,
more mass,
Lion.
and he hung. He hung better and hung on better, taking the beating more so than the smaller Wilder did. So let's look at it this way, Jack. And you said Fury was great, and I'm not going to fight you on that.
Fury was
But
great.
Tyson
He was a
Fury's
great
career.
fighter. Yeah.
Tyson's Fury's career, Jack, is beating Vladimir Klitschko, who was at the end of his career, who had been undefeated for 10 years, okay? And it's not like he beat him up. It was a terrible fight, but his herky-jerky style totally messed Klitschko up. So he gets a win there, and I'll give him credit. When you beat a guy that's been on top for 10 years.
8-4, 9-3 in rounds.
Okay, fine. Okay. Other than that, though, Jack, his claim to fame really is beating Wilder.
Yeah, the 3 fights.
The second 2 times.
Yeah, well, you can only beat and fight who's put out in front of you. I mean, it's kind of like a tricky thing. So we could say Anthony Joshua's had a better career than Fury. If you want to look at the guys he's fought to make kind of like a cross comparison, can we do that?
Well, what's Anthony Joshua's best win? It's Klitschko. So they both beat the same guy for their best win.
He stopped Povetkin, but I think Joshua, maybe I'm wrong, was damaged more in losing to Andy Ruiz, a guy who never would have beaten Fury. Yeah, he lost to Daniel Dubois late on. So I think that kind of factors into it a bit.
Joshua has defeated more quality guys, not so much great, but more quality guys than Fury. But he suffered more. He suffered more dominating losses against Ruiz and against Dubois.
Sunday night, also the Garcia fight with Barrios is Saturday night. Sunday night, there's a show promoted by Dimitri Salita, in Detroit. Salita promotes a lot there with his group. And Clarissa Shields is fighting Famichan Cruz. Okay, women's fight, good matchup. Even though I don't care for Clarissa Shields' personality, tremendous respect for the type of boxer she is. She's very fundamentally sound, tremendous talent. And she might very well be what she says she is, the greatest of all time amongst, the women boxers. I mean, there's no one really who's more talented than any woman I've ever seen box.
If she had a little bit more punch, she'd really be a star.
If she had a little more personality, she'd be a star.
Well, she tried to have the personality.
Well, she's been arrogant and abrasive a lot of the time.
Well,
and that just doesn't
Mayweather did that and it worked, Jack.
It worked. Mayweather kind of had his gimmick going on. Yeah, and he developed a following. You never know who could develop a following and how they develop.
But he embraced being the bad guy, Jack.
The same night on the undercard, Clarissa Shields is Bryce Taylor, the heavyweight who we had on this show a couple of months ago, or whenever. And Price, he's unbeaten in what, 11?
He's not a
10, 11
heavyweight, Jack.
fights.
He's a junior welterweight.
No, no. Price Taylor. You're thinking about Bryce Mills, the Russell Peltzer
Oh,
guy.
okay. Okay.
Taylor, the heavyweight who got into an argument with you, Lotierzo, and he indirectly told you didn't know what you were talking about. He didn't use those words, but you wanted to stress. You were trying gently to stress the importance of road work. And he was basically telling you he doesn't need road work.
Well, let's see how far he goes.
He's better off without road work. And he's saying,
let's see how far he goes.
So he's on the undercard there. And listen, if Price gets big, we could have him on an unlimited basis on this show. That's the good part. But I'm going to start working on getting guests next month, a profile to come on. And I forgot a certain point. You know who I was talking to? This point. The other day, Thomas Hauser. We were talking, and Tom is really themed about one thing in particular, the Hall of Fame ballots. And one of my favorite people, Kelly Swanson, is on the ballot. She didn't get inducted, but Tom's argument was, how could, she be on and not Al Heyman? How is Al Heyman? I mean, the people getting in the Hall of Fame, you're one of the categories. We saw it in football, and I didn't ask you your reaction about Bill Belichick not getting into the Hall of Fame in Canton. But how do you draw comparisons? Is it the same in boxing like football? Because Al Heyman, at one time, a number of years, no one had a bigger impact on the sport than Al Heyman.
So it's a personality contest.
No, category-wise.
I know what you're saying.
Other publicists,
but if you don't like them, and that's the case, that was the case with Belichick too.
No. But Al Heyman wasn't on the ballot. No one had a chance to vote him in. Kelly Swanson at least had a chance. She didn't get voted in, for whatever reason. But Al Heyman wasn't given the opportunity. Also, Thomas Maddy said Cedric Kushner. He should have been on the ballot. And I would think, yes, Cedric Kushner.
In the 90s, he promoted a lot of big fights down the shore.
Right. Cedric Kushner, to me, is not a slam dunk Hall of Famer. I think Al Heyman is with the impact that he had. And then Tom was telling me, too, he hates the way the ballot's set up because Jermaine Taylor and Kelly Pavlik and Jerry Cooney went on the ballot. Now, the Cooney part about it, Jerry Cooney is a sweetheart. He is a great guy. I like Jerry a lot. Whenever I see him, I don't want to get myself in trouble with Jerry, but how can Jerry Cooney be on the ballot and Jimmy Ellis not be on the ballot? Cooney's not on the ballot. Jimmy Ellis is far more worthy to be on the ballot than Jerry Cooney. I don't see it as being close.
Is Jerry Quarry on the ballot?
Jerry Quarry hasn't been on the ballot, no. And so I don't want to hear this Cooney talk. Quarry had a complete career. Ellis had a complete career. Cooney had an incomplete career. Let's be honest about it. He didn't have a full career the way the other guys had.
Jerry's looked at his potential a lot.
Listen, nothing to be ashamed about. It's speculation. Well, if he would have been matched with Mike Weaver, he would have knocked him out. Maybe so. I'm not going to argue that point. But the fact is, it didn't take place. And a guy like Jimmy Ellis fought his way through a tournament. And also Jerry Quarry.
And beat a lot of big names too, Jack.
Well, and Jerry Quarry also, he beat guys he beat Ron Lyle when Lyle was good. He beat, Buster Mathis when Buster Mathis.
Mac Foster when he was undefeated.
Right, he had some big wins. So I love Jerry Cooney. He's a great guy. He was, and I kind of feel he would have stopped Mike Weaver had he been matched with him.
I was picking him to stop Weaver.
I would have too, but the bottom line is it didn't take place. So we're basically giving him his props more so than anything else on the home
And because
side.
he gave Holmes such a great fight when Holmes was at his peak.
Right, okay, but he didn't come real in reality close to winning the way Ken Norton did against Holmes. I mean, I thought Holmes deserved a decision over Norton, but it was close enough within range that they could have given it to Norton.
I didn't see any case for Norton, but it was still a close fight.
Well, then you see a case for Norton if it was a close fight.
But I mean, Holmes won a few rounds that were really close.
Holmes up 2 points.
I had it 9-6, so we were only 1 round off.
Yeah, okay. You had a 3-point difference, I guess. Okay, whatever. But some people.
I thought Holmes won the first 7 or 8 rounds off the top of my head, and he won at least 3 of the remaining 6.
Right, but a lot of people did have Norton winning as well. I thought it could have gone either way, but that's whatever. But
Jack, speaking of Jimmy Ellis, I know is he your favorite?
He's my favorite. It took me years after being asked the question to say it was Ellis because he really was. I tried to have an open mind. I had a couple of other favorites. I love Tom Boom Boom Johnson because I got to meet him on the way up and follow his career and got to know him. He was a favorite, but Ellis it couldn't be Ali and Frazier, and I'll tell you why. I think I've said it before. Those guys were too great for me. I could never relate to their greatness as far as myself. I mean, I can't be as great in whatever I'm doing as Ali was inside the ring.
If you omit Ali and Frazier, I would say that Ellis and Quarry were probably the 2 guys I rooted the hardest for during that era.
I would think you would have rooted for the Philly guys, the ones Philly links like Howie. But you knew these
I'm talking about during the golden age of that heavyweight era when Ellis was fighting.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I mean everyone.
So I'm not going like past 85, Jack, and guys I knew. I'm keeping this to when I was a kid coming up and when I was really got into with the sport. Ali and Frazier were the big names, but Ellis and Quarry were like the next tier down, and I always rooted for them, and I liked them both about the same. I never met either one of them. I always wanted to. And as I said in my post, today is the anniversary of the first Ellis-Frazier fight. And, Ellis just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was cursed by his birth certificate because a lot of people think that March 8th Frazier was unbeatable. But I'll tell you what, the February 16th, 1970 version of him was real close.
I watched the fight about a week ago again on YouTube, the first Frazier-Ellis fight. And Ellis, even though the stoppage loss was as decisive as could be, he was looking good and throwing punches, but Frazier was unstoppable. Nothing could hurt Frazier, slow him down. But Ellis, if you see the way he was jabbing, quick, throwing right hands.
For the first 2 rounds. Yes, Jack, for the first 2 rounds, but that's
even
my
in
point.
Round 3 and 4, but Frazier was unstoppable.
I think by round 3, Jack, he lost his steam. But that's my point. And the same thing with Holmes. You can look good against Frazier for a couple rounds, but once he finds that groove after the second round, he starts beating you up more and more as the rounds progress. And it takes so much to fight him off. And that's what happened with Ellis. When Ellis was fresh during the first round and probably half of the second round, he got the better of it. But again, Joe kept coming and forcing him to punch when he didn't want to, forced him to rush his punches, and that's what drained you. There's no rest. And that's what happened. By the time the 4th round came, Jimmy was underwater.
It's hard to explain why certain fighters are perceived or considered slow starters. Eddie Futch, before the fight of the century, the first Ali Frazier fight, he was concerned that Ali's one big opportunity could be at the start of the fight.
And that was how he's playing, too.
Right, and that's how Ali seemed to fight. But then again, was Frazier really a slow starter in this sense? He was an Olympic gold medalist. You can't be a slow starter if you can win a gold medal in the Olympics. Think of it. I mean, that does make some sense, that theory. Michael Spinks was a slow starter in most of his pro fights, okay, against good opposition. But he was an Olympic gold medalist too.
I think with Frazier was he had to get his rhythm down. It took him a couple rounds to do that. And it's not even so much he was a slow starter. It's not like he lost first rounds where he got dominated. But if you compare how he looked in the 5th and 6th rounds, there was a big difference. But a lot of that was he took a lot of steam out of the other guy. And I remember, speaking of the Ellis Frazier fight, I remember reading in the Daily News Angelo Dundee talking to Stan Hochman, and he was talking about Frazier is like a beat fighter. It's like he has this subliminal count in his mind, 1, 2, then he goes. And he said Ellis is the type guy that can disrupt that rhythm, break the pattern up, and every time Frazier tries to get near him, he can turn him in the corner and get away. And I remember I was 11 years old, and I remember thinking, I don't think that's going to be so easy to apply. And if you remember, during the Frazier-Quarry fight, Dundee is commentating with Don Dunphy, and he said, or Cosell, and he said, let's have it, Angie. Is your guy going to fight Frazier? And he goes, yeah. He goes, Jimmy will be happy to beat Frazier. He goes, I can guarantee you one thing. He won't be on the ropes in the corner like Quarry is. And what happened? When they fought, it was the same thing.
Let me throw this at you, Frank, okay? We never hear this talk. Let's say fights were 1 round, 3 minutes. We had like a mini tournament. Jerry Quarry, Joe Frazier. It's a 1 round fight. Is that meaning Joe has to pick the pace up? But you know how good Quarry could be for 1 round. Who do you pick to win a 1 round fight, 3 minutes? I don't think it'll last a round. The round, no one's going to stop.
Well, Jack, we kind of saw that in their fight in '69.
But Quarry would have fought different in a 1 round fight. He may have boxed a bit too, combination punching.
I don't know, Jack. I think he would have gone right at him like he did and tried to get him out.
Okay, so if it was a 1 round fight, would Frazier have tried to pick up the pace in the round he lost to Quarry, the first round of their fight, knowing the fight would end at the end of 3 minutes?
I think he might have tried, Jack, but I don't know how much better he would have done because the way Quarry was going at him, Joe had a pretty good first round too. It's just Quarry had a really good first round.
Okay, Ellis won the first round against Frazier in their first fight. He actually won the first 3 rounds of the rematch. People forget.
I remember that.
He wasn't in the best shape, but let's talk about the first fight. If it was a 1 round fight, does Joe nail Ellis, get him out of there? Does Ellis win the round like he did in the actual fight?
I think it's plausible. Plausible, yes. Yes, because it's going to take Joe a couple minutes to track him down to nail him, and he could probably survive the round. Yes, I would think so.
Ali beats Joe in a 1 round fight.
And he won the first round of all 3 of their fights, yes.
Yeah. So
although in the first fight it was close, but Ali had the edge.
And Joe maybe doesn't get knocked down with Foreman, perhaps if it's a 1 round fight, in peak form, but Foreman controls the round and gets.
That's just so hard to give poor Joe a shot under any circumstance against Foreman.
But keep this in mind, Joe didn't get knocked down till the 5th round of the rematch. Okay, with Foreman. So
that's because he got tired, Jack, and couldn't move anymore.
Yeah, but the first Frazier-Ellis fight, this is an anniversary date, February 16th, took place in 1970, 56 years ago.
Who did you think was going to win going in?
I picked Frazier. I mean, I thought he'd grind him into defeat about 10 rounds or so. That was my feeling.
You saw my post, and I made a post. In sixth grade, Jack, I used to try to trick guys to come over to the house, and I'd get them down the basement, and I wouldn't let my friends leave until they boxed me. And I only had a couple friends that would come down, and I bet two of these guys because they were big boxing fans too. And I remember they said that they thought Ellis's sparring with Ali would prepare him for Frazier, so they thought that Ellis had a good chance to beat him. And I said, guys, I'm not. First of all, Ali and Frazier fight nothing alike, and I'm not sure that Ali can beat Frazier, let alone Ellis. And we made small bets on the fight. And I remember the next day I came in real proud, and I was kind of rooting for Ellis, but I knew he wasn't going to win.
Yeah, someone told me this once that stuck with me. We judge fighters too much based on their last fight, and we kind of get fooled a bit. Like even recently, Crawford didn't look good. You know, the fight before Canelo wasn't one of his best performances, but I still picked him to beat Canelo, but he didn't look good with Madrimov. So we wondered whether he was maybe declining or whatever. Yeah. Wait. I gotta let this person know not to call now during my podcast. Yeah, okay. That was a boxing manager. By the way, that was a boxing manager. But
I kind of figured that.
Yeah.
Jack.
And Leonard against Kevin Howard, he looked dreadful. That's why people dismissed his chances against Hagler. Ali against Bonavina before he fought Frazier didn't look good. So
yeah, the stoppage in the last round really bought him a lot of cachet back because he did not look good during that fight. And think about this, Jack. Think about how good did Ellis look against Bonavina? Think about that. Frazier fought Bonavina 25 rounds, couldn't put him down, and never really staggered him. Ellis had him falling all over the place and dropped him twice. And that, if we had to pick Ellis's best fight, that might be it as a heavyweight. That might be his most impressive outing.
Yeah, what's interesting? People like old school talk. But when you think about what do we have to talk about today going on in boxing?
I hate it, Jack. You're right.
Fighting one another. That's why we revert to these fighters of the past where the fights were easy to be made. I mean, they all would fight one another. And
like everything else, Jack, money ruins it all. Money ruined it all. Big money came into boxing at the top. It hurt it. Look what it's doing to the NFL. You have these players making $60 million a year. Like Dak Prescott cares. He hasn't won a Super Bowl.
Frank, these belts, for example, give fighters an excuse not to fight one another. That's what it does. Because there's so many divisions packed closely, they can all avoid one another. And I'm not, Richard, I'm not in the Stella hit. I just changed.
No, he's talking about when I was boxing my buddies in the basement. Yes, we did. Yes, Rich, I did we cleared it out. Our basement was paneled. There was a furniture set up in the middle, and I just got all the chairs and pushed them out, and I got the big red 16-ounce gloves on, and I wouldn't let them out, Jack.
Hey, did you see that episode with the honeymooners when Cramden threw the one punch? Did you watch the honeymooners, Frank?
Jack, I love the honeymooners. That was Harvey, and Norton said they had the setup fight, and he goes, "Look, I'll tell, get out of the way, Fatso." And the guy comes in, "Get out of the way, Fatso," and he knocks him out.
Training methods. Ralph hit the bag one time, hurt his hand at the end. The speed bag, does that have any real effect? I mean, it's okay for conditioning of the arms to go like this, but I never saw the logic. Eye-hand coordination. What eye-hand coordination?
It's all rhythm once you get it down. I mean, you just time it, Jack. I think it helps you keep your hands up, and it's more of a show thing. But as far as I know guys that look great on a speed bag that can't fight a lick or can't box a lick, but they look good hitting the speed bag because they have a picture of Ali in their basement and they have the speed bag under it, and they do that and they think they're him.
No, I just did a story. Okay, it's going to be in Boxing News Monthly next month. They have a column called a retro piece, something that took place in the past. and I did a story, a retro article that's coming out on the Joe Louis story, the movie that was made in 1953.
Cooley Wallace.
Coley Wallace. And the Coley Wallace actually refereed one of my amateur fights. Nice man.
Cool.
But you watch a Joe Louis story, it had great fight footage, actual fight footage of a number of his fights, which was good. But you think about what Joe Louis means now to society, and especially, African American people. He's not as big as he was. And I was thinking the other day about Muhammad Ali. After we're long gone, his name's going to diminish. You're going to hear future generations are going to say, he wasn't really that. He was a great fighter, but he wasn't really that great. He's going to be looked upon maybe like Jack Johnson when we talk about the greatest of heavyweight of all time. Other names are going to surpass him in the minds of people. That's what.
Jack, but don't you think that's going to happen with everybody? I mean,
it hasn't happened
Michael
with Sugar
Jordan.
Ray Robinson. Hasn't happened with Sugar Ray Robinson, but you're correct. It could happen with Michael Jordan. Look, it's happened with Jim Brown. I mean, they don't automatically say Jim Brown, oh, he's the greatest running back of all time. You're going to look at guys like Barry Sanders, and you can make, some other running backs, perhaps.
Well, Jim Brown and Robinson have some similarities to me, Jack, for the fact that Jim Brown had Larry Zonka power with not quite Tony Dorsett's speed, but he was the perfect blend of speed and power. I think that's why he stands out. And I think Sugar Ray Robinson's the same thing, Jack.
No, how we look at these guys. I mean, some guys, their legacy is etched in stone. I understand that. But look at all the great quarterbacks before the Super Bowl era, like Otto Graham. His name doesn't come up amongst the greatest of all time. Johnny Unitas, that's a better one. The guy at the beginning of before the Super Bowl era, and he was there at the beginning of the Super Bowl era, and won 3 NFL championships. Okay? There was a time where Unitas was considered perhaps the greatest quarterback of all time. Now you ask the average knowledgeable football fan.
He doesn't make the top 10.
Quarterbacks of all time. They don't think of Johnny Unitas. He doesn't cross their mind.
But if you go back,
Aaron Rodgers, they might make the lower part of the top 10 list. But
I wish you didn't say Dan Marino, Jack, because I've done a lot. I've done a forensic on his career lately. We'll talk about it another time. But if you go back and you look at Johnny Unitas, Jack, he was throwing 25 touchdowns a season when guys were throwing 13.
Yeah.
And that's and plus he called his own game. He had all the comebacks. It's like, yes, because we didn't see him. And when guys see the black and white film, they don't think all that much of him. Jack, I'll give you another one. And it goes back to the 70s, just like some of the fighters that people forget. Roger Staubach was a great quarterback nobody talks about. Same thing. It's like the further we get away from these guys, we lose it on them. But Robinson has endured the test of time. Why? Because we do see some film of him. We have his record, who he fought. And Jack, I'm sorry. When you see the clips of Robinson, I mean, I'm sorry. There's no other fighter that looks like him. Not even Roy Jones. Nobody put punches together like him.
All the movies that have been made of fighters, it's hard to believe that's not one of Sugar Ray Robinson. That's a great movie there. The guy was so stylish. And you can end the movie like it was in Dave Anderson's book on him. He's in his little apartment, broke his wife's little apartment, all the money's gone, so on. But the guy was so stylish.
But Jack, here's why, though. We've seen movies on Joe Louis, Ali, Jack John. Okay, but if you think about Robinson, there's no hook with Robinson, Jack, because all he was a stylish, great fighter. There was no race involved with him, no war. no religion. He didn't have Max Schmeling being boosted up by Hitler to beat up. He didn't have the
Yeah, the pink Cadillac, owning a Harlem,
yeah, that
stylish,
too.
man
But
about
nothing
town.
culturally, Jack, that like what gets people talking. Cars don't get people, and I love cars, but they don't get people talking like race,
Frank, you forgot.
religion, and things like
You
that.
forgot. You forgot. When you and I discussed who was the coolest fighter, not best, coolest in boxing
Right.
history, we came to
It's
the
down to two
conclusion
for
was
me.
Sugar Ray Robinson. And then we talked about Smoking Joe and Jack Johnson as far as being cool, but it was Sugar Ray Robinson.
But Jack, if you made a movie about Sugar Ray Robinson, the whole key would have to be about how great of a fighter he was. And I don't know if that would draw.
He was in the service. I'm sure they could
And he had some
embellish.
issues in the service. I know that. But it's not like if you make a movie about Jack Johnson, you have the race angle. If you make a movie about Joe Louis, you have the Hitler Germany angle. If you make a movie about Ali, you have Vietnam and religion and things like that angle. With Sugar Ray Robinson, Jack, it was, yeah, he was a cool dude with a lot of cool cars, a big entourage, and he probably did it better than anybody else. But is that enough of a hook?
Oh, well, you could have put Ali in the movie in the sense that he wanted Sugar Ray to manage him, and Sugar Ray kind of brushed them off, and then they became friends later. When Ali upset Liston, Sugar Ray was at his side and supposedly gave him instructions. You fight Liston the way I fought Jake LaMotta. Speaking of that, St. Valentine's Day just took place. The most famous fight in boxing history was the St.
75 years.
Day massacre. Yes, 75 years ago. Darn,
can you believe that?
Yeah.
And Jack, for 8 rounds, that was a good fight. That was an even fight after 8 rounds. And then Robinson just kicked it up after that.
People sometimes create narratives and other people buy into it. We talked about it the other day with Canelo and Crawford, where people under the impression, oh, Canelo, it was a one-sided fight. It wasn't a one-sided fight. Lewis and Marciano, that wasn't a one-sided fight. Lewis was.
It was 3-2 Lewis after 5 rounds, right?
All they remember is Lewis getting knocked out of the ring. The conclusion, you know how Marciano devastated him at the end. Yeah, you know
Jack,
what I watched. Yeah.
Have you seen? You've seen the entire fight of Robinson LaMotta, the St. Valentine's Day fight, right?
I don't remember.
Because there's film of it out there, the whole fight, all 13 rounds.
Yeah, but I probably did. I've watched, certain segments of it.
Okay, then that kind of shades my question a little bit, but I will say this. There's a lot of debates about the greatest middleweight of all time. And recently, I think as middleweights, Monzon and Hagler have crept up on Robinson. But I'll tell you what, Jack. When I watched that fight with LaMotta on Valentine's Day, I'm sorry, with the exception of maybe Harry Greb, based on his record, I just don't see any way on God's green earth that Marvin Hagler or Carlos Monzon could have defeated that Robinson. I don't see it. Now, look, I know he lost the title a few times and he wasn't consistent after that. But on that night when he won the title at 155 pounds, aside from Greb, and I won't even count him because I never saw him, but of the middleweights I saw fight, I don't know what Monzon or Hagler do with him.
Oh, the Monzon and Hagler and Robinson, very competitive fight, no matter how it turns out.
I agree with that, but I just think Robinson just a little bit.
Well, I could ask you this, just very quick. We only have about a minute, and we could pick up on this next week. How would they have done against LaMotta? Maybe that's a better question, Monzon and Hagler. It would have been a tough fight for Hagler style-wise because they would have met head-on. Monzon would have maybe controlled it with his jab and then boxed him on the outside. But
I think LaMotta gives them both trouble.
Yeah. I mean, because LaMotta took such a great punch. He wasn't going to go anywhere. Okay, Frank, it was, a lot of fun. And I'm picking Garcia. I'm going to take a conservative approach and pick Garcia by a decision. What about you?
I would agree with that. Garcia wins.
Okay.
And let's go Bryce Mills. I like that kid. I want to see him bring it home.
Price Taylor, the heavyweight.
I'm talking about Bryce Mills, the junior welterweight.
February 28th in upstate New York. Okay, we'll talk about it maybe next week. Okay.
All right, Jack. See ya.